Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining episode 74 with myself and Genevieve Kim. Genevieve is a storyteller, photographer, and creative consultant. She's helped 1,500 plus people, probably 2,000 at this point, in over 24 plus countries create their badass bios through her Badass Bio workshop to gain clarity, confidence, and certainty in their businesses and brands. She has Triangleflash Studio, which is a creative media company based in New York City, and is someone who just has a light to her, has so much experience, whether it be with travel, internal development, social media, branding, that she wants to give it to others, serve the world in that way. And I know you can learn so much from her in this episode. So join us and join Genevieve as she opens up, tells her story, and gives extreme insight into what she knows.
I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
So happy to have you, Genevieve. Thank you for joining me and us and whoever's listening.
Happy New Year, Anthony. I'm excited to start my new year. This is my first working day and I've got this, so I'm really excited.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said before, you have a plethora of experience and there's many ways to describe you, right? Like storyteller, photographer, creative consultant. And I like the way people use names for C-suites interchangeably. Like yours is, you say chief magic officer. Other people say like chief optimistic officer if they're a COO. But I would love for you to explain the start of your journey. And then I want to quote something to kind of show some of the tail end, and you can paint the picture in between, which is insane. I did not know you were trained to be an opera singer when you were younger. That's incredible. But then there was a quote in an interview you did with MOZAIC where you said, "When I'm with my camera, I feel connected. Photography saved my life. It has been my companion and my teacher." And I know you're doing way more than just photography now, but would love to kind of explain in whatever way you want how that got to where it got to and how you did start the way you started.
I would love to. Actually, kind of the story does begin with the opera. I graduated and trained in music, and I gave my hand like probably a few years out of university and really tried to pursue the path of singing. And I had multiple side gigs and hustles between while auditioning and performing. And for me, I think the biggest fear that I had that was holding me back was this idea of being a starving artist. And it was ingrained in me for a very long time that was pretty much the only path for an artist, unless you just really, really made it. And so since I was conditioned to think that, I thought, well, okay, I guess I should get a real job. And I went into business and co-founded a yoga center. And that quickly turned into this new foray where I realized, oh, wait, I love something else besides music. I didn't realize that I loved business. It was not a path that I had ever considered. So, for me,
was it because you never tried it? Sorry to cut you off. Was it because you never tried it that you never knew, or like that ignorance allowed you to discover something new? So then you found you could expand into more.
I think it was just that I had always thought that I was going to be a musician.
I see. Okay.
So it was just that mindset that I had. So it wasn't necessarily that and besides what I had thought was business, I really didn't know the scope of it. I thought business was spreadsheets and numbers, which it goes far, far beyond that. Right. So when my yoga teacher, she said, I'm founding a yoga center. Will you join me on this? I said, heck yeah. Like, okay, sure. I don't know why you want me, because I don't have any business experience, but she's like, yeah. So I did that. 3 years went by. We won Best Yoga Studio. And that's I mean, I like to take a lot of pride in that because it was a very, very competitive market in San Diego where there's a yoga studio every block in California, you know, and all that.
Seriously.
So we did really well. And I then decided, I said, you know what? I want to explore business even further. Like I feel like I'm just winging things. I'm learning everything on the internet, how to do things right. There must be a real way to do this. So that's when I went back and got my MBA. And I like challenges. So I said, okay, well, this whole business thing, I already know the marketing and this and a lot of operations from entrepreneurship, but I thing that I really lacked was finance. So I concentrated in finance and got into management consulting after school. And from there, I was like, okay, finance, no, I'm not gonna, that's just like not my powerhouse at all. So I went back and focused on digital marketing strategy and worked with Fortune 500 companies to really accelerate, their digital transformation. And it's kind of funny to say, even I would say 7 years ago, digital transformation was a word, right? Like now it's like, okay, marketing is digital. It's like, it's not separate.
Yeah.
But I would say the one thing that was lacking during that time and how it goes all full circle was that I realized that I felt really, really dead inside. And by that, I mean, I was really depressed, had really hit rock bottom and while I was working. And I realized that it wasn't because that, it wasn't, something chemical. Really, I think it was just the state of not doing what I wanted to do. So much of this was fear-based of not wanting to be a starving artist. And I said, if I'm going
to, their mind was trying to tell you something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It totally was. And so for me, it ended up becoming this question of like, well, then what am I really going to do? And I remember during business school, I had struggled with depression as well. And one of the psychologists told me, he's like, one of the doctors said, what is that you really love to do? Like, if you could just, do something that would get you out of the house, what is it? And I said, it would be photography. And so he said, that's all you need to do. And I was like, what? I have school, I have, everything else coming up. And so that permission to just do that and focus and find joy in that really just ignited a whole new world for me. And this lifelong, kind of relationship I've had where it was more or less like casual friends, I would say, with photography, really transformed into just this beautiful budding friendship. And I learned so much from it and learned a lot from myself. And then after leaving a client meeting, I had, I just realized I needed to get it was an aha moment. I had an ulcer. I had a panic attack and went to the ER and I was like, holy shit, like I'm this stressed out and I really am not in a good space. And I remember not that long ago, I was lying on the bathroom floor thinking, am I going to end my life? And so, that's when it came full circle that I really did need to get back to the artistry within me. And I knew it wasn't going to be through voice anymore, but just another form of letting my voice go through pictures. And so without a plan, I put in my 2 weeks notice and I left and became, I just decided I was going to become a photographer. And I had never ever had a client before in photography. I had never done anything of the sorts. I'd never been paid to do it, but I was like, no, I'm going to do it. So that led to one thing or another, and many, many surprising, unraveling journeys led me to start the Triangleflash Media, which is a creative studio. And then with COVID, I've been focused so much more on the marketing aspect of getting brands lifted. And it really comes back to all about coming back to that starving artist myth. And
Mm,
so today, my mission really is around eradicating the lone artist and the starving artist myth and allowing people to tell stories and to really express themselves. And
mm.
I do
Yeah,
believe that there is a marriage between being successful and making money and having a lot in security in the bank while being an artist.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it wasn't always. I mean, I was born in the it was like 1998, so like early aughts, but like even before then, in like the 60s, 70s, even before that, like artists kind of the thing, the guitar on the side of the street type thing. Like not many thrived. So it's so nice now though. It's like this stuff of like social capitals being democratized and people can be more independent. That's why creators are becoming entrepreneurs. Like you see all these stories. So it's like people need that kind of golf caddy to do well in their golfing game, where you're like they're their coach to help them thrive. Because a lot of people, especially younger ones, are somewhat lost. They don't know how to do it well. So it's like there's such a need to have someone like you enter into their life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, to go back to that idea of what you were mentioning for having golf caddy, it is exactly
Mm.
to me this companionship that we need in, especially when we're in this creative space, because ultimately we're never creating in a vacuum. I don't think that. And so the lone artist myth, I think, perpetuates this inability to just collaborate, to ship, to actually build something even more grand. um, and I've just found so much fruit in being able to work with others, and I get more creativity
Mm.
infused when I have conversations with people. Like, people are oftentimes my biggest source of inspiration.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's one thing you said that I thought was really cool, and then I actually have one question in mind. You said, someone asked like what your superpower was, and you said your superpower is like seeing others' superpowers, and I was like, that's the most fire thing I've ever heard in my life. So it's cool that like you had to discover it for yourself, but now you want to do that for other people that are trying to discover it for their own. I was gonna ask you though, like, how do you balance taking action with like creating a direction? You know what I mean? Because I think it's important to like when you talk about branding, like having a strategy set in place, but as you talk about like sharing and in action is key. Like, what is that? How is that harmonization made?
I think it's much like any sort of athletic training.
Mm,
When I think about just the endurance, so I used to love running and do races, and for me, there's always a mixture between short runs, long runs, and then there are the days where I'm doing cross training. So I'm doing yoga, or I'm actually doing rest. And I think that's similar to any sort of endeavor that we're doing, where we're not hitting the pavement, pounding the pavement every single day, but that it's different types of muscles that we're using, including our muscle to reflect, including the muscle to integrate and to, actually evaluate or reevaluate. And then there are the times when it's just the only way that you have anything to reflect on or evaluate is through having done something. And so I'm a
yeah.
big believer in what, Seth Godin says is just ship it. I'm all about that, because only from having put something out do we actually get the type of feedback, because the rest is just all in our head then, and it's fictitious.
Mm,
But there is a story that I would love to share, in that I used to hate posting on social media. And I used to think that it was narcissistic. It was just a waste of time. And I used to be so defiant towards it. I was like, who is this platform to tell me that, my art needs to be in a 1 by 1, and I'm just like, this is
yeah.
so limiting and all of this. And I did then set out as a challenge for myself to just start posting. I did like a mini challenge for myself where I wanted to post daily about, my, I chose benches for whatever reason as the theme. So I was
I like taking
photographing,
pictures of benches.
yeah, or like
Mm.
people on benches, or just what is the idea concept of public spaces and where people share them, or, you know, conversation. And so I started that, and it was on the platform elo.co. And soon enough, I mean, it just picked up momentum, and then I became an Elo featured artist. And I had no intention, but other than I liked the platform because it wasn't algorithmically based. It was purely about, you know, timing. So whatever was just posted came up on top. And so that was when I first got this test of like, oh, it's interesting. I'm actually having conversations with people who are saying, oh, that's nice, that's cool. And I'm also being acknowledged on the platform, where it wasn't just about algorithms, but was more like kind of more or less relationships that I had built with folks who were like, great work, or I love this lighting that you did, I'm here. And then I went down and I was like, okay, no more social media. Like, I'm just done with it. But the lesson of that one was like, it went really well. Like I actually got to the point where there was traction and momentum. A few years later, you know, I was like, okay, maybe I got to do this whole social media thing, especially Instagram if I am a visual artist. And so I just decided that I was going to do a bit more, and I was just going to post a few times a week. I'm not going to do this whole everyday thing. And no joke, from the time that I just started posting a little bit to the time where, you know, until I started to get client inquiries from that was almost immediate. Like it was probably thereafter, like someone found me on Instagram, and we ended up launching together like a 6-figure project together. And it was really just to say and go to show that it's not like I need to live and breathe on there. And it changed my perception about really my relationship to what is it about, what is the act that I'm doing? Is it that I am showing up on social media, or is it just the act of showing up, period? And so for me, it's like, okay, with with one click of a button, we're showing up to 1 billion people. And so in each platform, there's about 1 billion people. And so it's really a signal and a call, instead of going door to door, or maybe, you know, doing miniature salons, or, you know, knocking on gallerist doors. It was more of, I'm showing up, I'm putting my work out here. This is the main reason why I decided to be an artist, was because I had something to say, or that I had something to express. And from that, I happened to just it was like so natural and organic, where I was getting clients that way, and it was minimal. So I think that I do highly, highly encourage that, like, probably one of the biggest sources of action is just ship and deliver. Just ship it. That's the action I would say that we get the most growth from.
Yeah, I love Seth as well, but I appreciate everything you said. And I can tell now, and I can see the point in which you had that click between begin posting and then getting clients as well. Which I believe some of your first clients were like really amazing. But we'll talk about that in a second. But it seemed like then was like you're now more in flow and like spontaneity type, and you're freely expressing yourself, where I was before a long time ago, and many can be before they actually click themselves, is like kind of forcing it. But it's only what I found until like pushing the needle forward until I actually truly found who I was and who I wanted to um, become creatively. But can you talk about those beginning couple clients? Because I have a couple of questions in relation to like the work itself, um, with how you started with photography.
Yeah. What I found to be kind of an interesting point was that I always felt like the only way that I could produce work was if it was, if it was for clients and I had to pitch to them and I had to beg them. basically
Mm.
like you kind of allowing them to call the shots in terms of creativity and whatever everything was going to come out. But I knew that based on my corporate experience, I said, I left corporate so that I could really call the shots, and that I could be the most creative that I wanted to be. So um, I just followed my curiosity, to be
Mm.
honest. And my first curiosity was while I was in Lebanon. I wanted to know. I was like, you know what? I think it'd be really cool to, and I'm just beyond cool. I don't think that's even the word. It's kind of sacrilegious to say, but I was really, really curious, and definitely had this desire to learn, the culture there. And so I had a friend who worked at UN Habitats at the time, and I said, I would really like to actually, can I do some work for you guys? Can I photograph for you? And so that ended up being where I was photographing
Mm.
various vulnerable neighborhoods throughout the country. And during that survey, there's a Palestinian refugee camp, and I met this woman, and she's in the camp, and she's showing me around and introducing me to people. And the next thing I know, I'm in her house, and she's showing me everything that's wrong, like from the lack of water to just, there's like just that they're basically living with nothing, and that they need serious help. And I had no idea how I was supposed to help. I was like, I don't know how I can help you, other than her daughter comes rushing out, and she's like, take a picture of me. She's like, Aina Sura. And so like, I was like, okay, take a picture of you. And I think that very single moment of making that photograph with her was my moment of, I may not be able to provide you funds or, provide you aid relief immediately right now, but what I can do is actually share your story, and I can acknowledge you as another person. So that was when I started the project EYESEEYOU. And that project alone was purely just this desire for me to practice seeing people more, because I lived in New York at the time, and it was so common for me to just really like headphones in, never look at the guy who had just asked me for $1, for me to just really rush by and not acknowledge the other people
The
who
New
are
York flow, yeah.
totally, yes, exactly. And I started to do this project, and I said, I'm going to photograph 1,000 people, and as a practice for me to see. And also I just love portraiture. So I started to do this, and at a friend's pop-up market in New York. And one thing led to another. I get asked to do this for a co-working community that I was part of. And they said, like, we also want to do a dinner event series around this and all this.
Mm.
And so they commissioned me to bring the project to their space. And then I had another company ask me the same thing. They said, wow, these are beautiful photos. These are beautiful portraits. Can you tell this kind of story for our agents worldwide? So then I photographed, again, more individuals around the world. And then I had another client, right, who was just like, okay, this is really awesome. We really love, can you do something of the EYESEEYOU nature? Like, so it became kind of this
Yeah.
aesthetic and look. And that's when it hit me that I had to show up. I had to just do the project. And two, I was doing this project purely because it was something that I felt deeply called to, and I also was genuinely curious about. And it wasn't initially about putting expectations and pressure on, is this going to have a revenue goal? Is this going to be profitable? It was genuinely, is this something that I'm interested in? And as cliche as it sounds, and I didn't have the expectation, the money did come in. I even got the opportunity to share it. A retailer on Broadway asked, they said, there's a shoe company called Melissa Galleria, and they're like huge Brazilian shoe brand, and they have this huge store down in Soho, and they were like, hey, you know, we'd love for you to bring this project to this store and, you know, do these things for passersby, and also if you want, you can display these photos so on their big LCD screen. So I bring all these examples of, you know, just the times that clients reached out to me, because it wasn't me begging for, will you let me do this project? It was, I have a project that I really care about, and I'm here to just continue to do it without expectation of anything. And that's when folks just, you know, really gravitated towards it. So I think my third lesson between, you know, the showing up and doing something that I really care about is actually just putting it out there with consistency. Like I was just like, okay, this is going to be my focus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful. Seriously. And I was gonna ask, where has like all in the beginning you said too, you wanted to be like have people that you work with be financially independent and secure, but also just full on artists. And it's so interesting. And I talked about this with someone the other day, is that money, when you want it, actually comes kind of this counterintuitive way when you don't seek it out or like you don't ask for it. It's kind of like if you do work for free, the money comes to you, that kind of aspect to it. But I was going to ask too, you've been to Lebanon, like you've seen all these crazy places, you've been to all these beautiful places too. Um, what has all of that taught you with traveling and photographing people? Like kind of because I know you shared the three things before, but like a thing you've seen in all of them in like a kind of aggregate way.
You know, I would take away from your question, like, what has travel really been to me? You know, if I really think about the question, travel in general has been likely my greatest source of inspiration. And it's like an opener of perspective, and it requires a great deal of just getting out of the comfort zone. And it also has taught me just the sheer, I guess, the sheer ability to connect with people. You know, that we have a lot more things in common than we realize. And that actually people live so differently than we do, and yet they can still be happy. And so I think it predisposed me to think about how I wanted to live, and actually really helped encourage me to continue to live the way that I wanted to live, instead of these preconceived, you know, traditional norms of, I need to get, you know, I should have stayed in corporate, or that I should have, you know, done something a bit more traditional. And yet, no, it's actually, there's so many different ways to live.
Yeah, those doubts can creep up sometimes though. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was reading about, because I took a deep dive into just everything you've done, and I saw the one post about when you went to Burning Man, and that's one of my bigger goals too. Like I would love to experience that, but it's interesting in that when you went there, you were kind of feeling in a lull with photography and just like being a creative in general, but it's when obviously at Burning Man, and as you journaled and summarized in your article, like giving is the main thing with that. And you know, giving, I was just talking to someone before, like is synonym for like love as well.
Mm.
So it's like that thing of photography reemerged when people needed photos, and you gave that creative expression of photo taking, and like creatively capturing, you can even call it, for other people. Um, but I just found that really cool too. And I don't know if this is a question of like you explaining Burning Man as much, but like, how did you feel when that reemerged for you? Because I cannot imagine how insane Burning Man was. What was it, like 2018 or sooner or
It was
before?
2018, and
Okay.
very interesting is that, I mean, I was really, really lucky to go with the camp that I went with, and I was really, really just absolutely blessed to have had the experience, and then to be part of a community where they were like, this is your offering and this is your gift. And so we want to fully support you in that. And basically they helped me with my, like, they basically got my ticket to go to Burning Man.
Mhm.
And what I think from, just that whole experience, because I was also kind of going back into a depressive lull. And because I just tried to get off of my antidepressant medicine and certain things weren't equalizing. And so I was in a very tough place mentally, but I found solace again in the moments when I was meeting strangers and having conversations with them out in the playa. And there were these photographs that probably like some of my favorite that I made in collaboration with other artists. And up until that point, I probably had considered myself an imposter, like that I was not really, even though I had already done certain things for certain clients, I still thought like, like I'm not, I'm like, still like in the budding phases, a novice, an imposter. And it was only until there was a fellow filmmaker and I loved his work. I was like, oh my God, holy shit, your work's amazing. Only when he was like, well, you're the maestro, so you tell me what to do. And I was like, I'm the maestro? Really? Like
What does maestro mean?
maestro it literally means teacher, but you also use maestro to be conductor. The maestro is the conductor of a symphony.
Yeah.
Basically, like you're the director. And so for him to call me that, I was like, oh, okay. So I get to, again, it was like, okay, I get to lead this. I'm going to create a story. And that's when, we photographed during a dust storm, a sandstorm, and it worked so well. And he was so willing. And my camera, like to this day, it's still like filled with, like this particular lens is filled with dust particles. Like I've lost that. It's just like done. But it was truly, truly epic. There was just like wind. And then I also remember other moments where I realized that I was photographing in some of the most difficult, the harshest conditions that there could be, with so many things to juggle, bike, dust, moments here, there, no cell phone to like know where to be and all these things. And everything worked out perfectly. And that's when I realized in that experience that I really had put myself in a position through all the travel that I had done previously to just know how to go with the flow and to seize and see the moments and the stories as they come moment to moment. And to, instead of thinking about, okay, is this like the perfect shot, but just to be more experimental than anything of like, I'm just going to make a photo because I see something. Again, it goes back to curiosity. Just, I see something, and I want to see it.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see it through just that aspect of creating. I I wanted to get into a more like step by step pragmatic way of coming back to how you help others, because everything and a lot of what we touched on is like self-inquiry, self-discovery, like self-acceptance in a way. But when you do work with others, because I want people to know more about Triangleflash and what you do as just a creative consultant, like if someone were to come on and be in a spot you were when you were really young of like, I have this imposter syndrome, I don't want to express myself, I'm young, people won't accept me because I'm young, I haven't done much, like, or just in general, maybe it's an experienced company, like what if they're seeking step 1 to step 4, like, help me find my why and then let's actualize it into the world through social or whatever digital. Like, how do you go through the process with them?
How do I actually do it as
Yeah,
a
how do you
consultant?
as a consultant, yeah.
I do start with, I start with a magic carpet ride, pretty much always a magic carpet visualization, and asking where, this magic carpet takes you 5 years into the future.
I like that.
And you're sitting there, and 5 years into the future, you have landed at the perfect spot that you had hoped for and dreamed of. And what do you see? Who are you with? What are you doing? What are you what are you remembered for in the last 5 years? And people, you see that you're at this banquet or you're at this party and people are toasting to you. What are they saying to you? And at that moment, I think we generally, we can change over the course, but I think when we think in that 5-year segment, it gives us opportunity to think a little bit more short term than say, what do I want to be known for in my grave? Like, that's just like, oh my God, nobody knows that. I mean, that's just like too grand and far. But given just, I know the acceleration of time and all of this, maybe even just say, what do you want to be remembered in 3 years now? Since things are just so unknown, but to just look and reflect, like, what do you want that to be in the near future? And what are the qualities? And I don't necessarily think about what it is. So then the second step is, after you've seen that, is really identifying what are your superpowers. So, and owning them, no matter how seemingly trivial at the time they may be, to things that, maybe are really grand, and acknowledging all of them, and to really take into account. I think it's, as they say, know thyself is really important. And I do firmly believe that. And I know that when we're young, because I'm still young, and I'm like, am I really? Like, I still, I'll be like,
Definitely young.
What do I want to be when I grow up? And I still right. It's a constant question, I think. But I think if we know at least a starting point, because a starting point from there of what did we see in 3 years? What is what are our superpowers? Really owning that and our value to ourselves. And then from there is to ask the question is, what is one step that I can take today to actually, right, to embody that and to be that? Is because, so after that, I would say coupled with 3 and 4 is like, maybe I would say first, even before, like, what is one step I can take? It's the question of, so what can I do in the next, few months that will help me get to that next step? And then what is it that I need to do in the next week? So I'm pretty structured in like my planning, where I have my quarterly goals, I have my monthly goals, and then week by week, every week, I'm like, these are the things that I need to do. And I also wanted to mention, it's actually funny because
I resonate with that too.
Yeah, I have this, I don't know why I have this book right here next to me, but I reread it, and it's called The Miracle Equation. It's by Hal Elrod, and I can't recommend it enough. He wrote the Miracle Morning series, and that's how I first started to get to know him. So he helped me out of my whole depression. Like, I first read him way back, like many years ago. And then fast forward, this book came out, I think this year. And I happened to, I said, hey, he's in Austin. I want to meet him. So I sent him an email and I said, can I photograph you? Yeah. I was like, can I photograph you? And we end up like, he's just like such an incredible human being, and meeting him and his spirit and his heart. And so, I decided to reread this, and I wanted to make this kind of like my ritual. But what's the 2 things that are in here, I think, is that I would take away is also creating a ritual around success and the habits that will get you moving forward. So just being really, and I think it comes down to just consistently showing up. So I've been making it a process, right? So that it's a process, not just like, okay, end results that I need, but to enjoy the process of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis that's in support of that 3-year, 5-year.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love because so many people, they have a way of getting people out of their funk through strategy, but I love that you have the magic carpet because then it's like it's all about reframing and perspective to get people out of their own head to think about it differently. So you get them to see the meta, and then they can reverse engineer it to like the day to day. Um, that's super powerful. And I mean, I don't know the exact number. It's probably growing, but you said you help like 1,500 plus people. I mean, that's a number in and of itself. You know?
Yeah, I'm actually excited because I think, 2021, I wrote down that I wanted to help launch 1,000 businesses. So
Mm,
let's see what happens.
yeah.
And dare I say, I'm actually in the process of writing my first book, and it's going to be coming
Let's
out in
go.
yeah, I know it's coming out in March. So now I have real accountability that it's
Wow.
supposed to come out in March, and it's called My Big Fuck Yous: Memoirs of a Creative Entrepreneur. So it's a huge f you to everything that we think that we should do, and how we should do things as creatives, and especially, and more so it's broadly speaking of like how can we design our life to be exactly in alignment. um,
Mm,
so it that probably would, I mean, I'm hoping it helps provide some context for those who are just getting into this new career path, that we really can design it to be
mhm.
exactly how we want it to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a terrific title. I I saw on the your Triangleflash Instagram, you you posted something recently. I don't know the exact date, but it said, oh, it said how are you with a question mark, and it had the how was crossed off and it said who instead, so who are you? And I think that's like an embodiment of like what you do and like who, like what you're about in terms of helping people understand who they are and then engineering it in a way and structurizing in a way for them to get there. But I might use that more. I might repost that picture too. That's like such a solid thing, solid way to go about it.
I gotta say this, it's really interesting because you refer to my Instagram. I have changed, I go through cycles a lot with when it comes to social media and posting.
Mm,
And most recently I have been less engaged on there because I know I've been more engaged on the live events front.
yeah, yeah,
And so I do want to kind of stress that even if I'm not active there, that I'm, trying to be consistent about showing up in other places. And I don't think that we need to all be Gary V's and have
yeah,
30
yeah,
posts go out in a single day. I think it's more the muscle of, are we showing up? And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, especially, like, for yourself and, like, for what you wanna do. Do. Because I'm
Mhm.
like, I mean, this guy has other dreams, and he's doing that to fuel what he has to do to make himself a brand, to then when he takes over, these bigger companies in, like, a private equity type way, to grow them, sell them, make money, and so he can buy the jets eventually, which is like I know him so well, and I know he's like a guy I wanna get to know more individually on a personal level, but, like, he has his dreams, and then, like, other people have theirs, so it's like what, like you said before, like what on a day-to-day works best to get you to where you want to. Um, it's definitely be about being true to yourself too, because if you know you're showing up elsewhere, then you don't have to overextend yourself. Like one thing I used to do really bad, just on a personal note, is like I used to work extremely hard into the night and,
Mhm.
let my work bleed out into the evening, and I wouldn't get the proper rest I needed. I would wake up later than usual, and then I would kinda feel down on myself for not being on top of the ball, but, I realized only when I stopped like over it was like doing too much to kind of mask this thing of me not thinking I'm doing enough. Because you could say it was somewhat
I
comparing to
get
like
you.
other people are doing so much, where it's like I do need my rest. I'll watch a movie one night out of the week, um, and like do what I need to be my 100%. So I think that aspect of being true to yourself is like really important as a creative.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's what I really resonated and why I so like when Next Gen put out, your little
Mhm.
profile, I was like, I gotta meet this guy. Like, dream big. That's just epic, and I think it's so awesome, the stories that you're telling and the way that you're telling them. It's again,
Mm.
I know I've told you this, but they're beautifully done. And I love just the style, and even just like the type of profiles you chose. I mean, you can choose so many different people to profile, and who you
Mm.
chose is just absolutely epic.
Yeah.
And I think is as for me, like when something that resonated was I have been in that state where, because what I do is also what I love and it's a passion of mine, where do the lines, where do I allow myself to make sure that I'm setting a good balance of in all that I'm
Exactly.
doing. And I'm probably not the best to follow because I'm an extremist. Like, I happen to just I'm finally
Now I
learning
feel
to
that. Yeah.
just kind of not get too in the seesaw of things. But one thing that I found is like allowing myself to just do little, and um, know that the rest is already going to get taken care of. That there's
Mm.
part of the creative process that I put in, and then there's the rest of the creative process where it's not in my control. And so my desire to work super hard is a part of, likely like what makes, what makes the work different and distinguishable. But it's also, I think, sometimes my lack of trust and faith that everything's going to unfold the way it is. And so I've kind of decided for 2021 to just allow myself to surrender more into, I do my part.
Mm.
And then the folks that I work with, right? There's a certain chemistry. It's like cooking, where there's other flavors that can combine, and I don't need to do everything. I don't need to produce everything. I can allow the team that I chose to work with in the first place, right, to I guess elevate the project in and of itself.
Mm.
And that's where I see that's where I love the creative process, because I'm sure how we storyboard one thing is not what it looks like in the very, very end. Like, it's just and pretty much I've like 9 times out of 10, it's even better.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It
That's
just
yeah.
is like, it's like, okay.
That's the word surrendering in and of itself. That's so well articulated. I yeah, the aspect of like psychological flexibility, being able to change. I think that's sometimes where the creative that can be the weakness, right? Because the strength is creating, but the weakness is like the opposite side of your strength, which is like perfectionism. Um, so once you surrender to that, it's like you're trusting in the process. That's where it comes from. Trusting in God, whatever you believe in, trusting in the source, right?
Yeah.
Um, I did see on plenty of interviews that you talk about like just being more like divinely in tune with the source and just letting it work through you, kind of like a vessel. Um, it's powerful. It's really powerful. But I always like to ask as well, in a creative kind of way as well, is to leave like because I know you like this is I didn't even mean to say this too, but you like dancing as well. But leaving like a space for you to kind of like do your thing and dance and talk about anything that's top of mind as the year ended, as we're recording at the start of 2021, as we mentioned in the beginning. anything you want to speak on for people to hear or people to really keep in mind as they do their thing. Because there was a lot great stuff here, but I always like to just leave that for the other guest and person speaking some gems.
You know, what's really interesting is, by the way, are you editing this?
Yeah, I can edit this.
No, you're like, no, I'm not editing these because I kind of want to go grab.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you can do your thing.
I'm gonna go grab really quickly. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
And I I wrote because I've been doing this gratitude journal.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, you've been doing that for a while, right?
yeah, I've been doing a gratitude journal, but like then, you know, it's again, it's all about right trying to be a bit more consistent. So I have this app, by the way, it's called Flow State. So if you stop typing after like a few seconds, it erases everything. So it's again, it's kind of like for
What?
folks who
That
like,
has to be the coolest thing I ever heard.
yeah, it is really cool. It's called Flow State. It's an app. And so I use it to just keep me writing, and it will delete everything after. And it's happened to me once or twice before. I'm like, gosh, dang it. So I got to start all over again. But I just wrote like this stream of consciousness of like on the 30th of what I was just really grateful for. And I just felt a call of just stream of consciousness. So I'd love to just read it and share it.
Oh, I appreciate that. Absolutely.
Um, Stream of consciousness, folks. Okay, things that I am grateful for today. I'm grateful for the sun rising upon my face and knowing that it will continue to rise every single morning. Yes, we are alive today, and for this short time that we are alive, it is the time to seize the day with all the creative energy in the world. What do we know is possible? Today, I'm grateful for the warmth of the family next to me, the harmony and understanding of the human beings with whom I share this journey with, that I can safely call my brothers and sisters family. Tonight, we unite in our hands. I'm grateful for those who wish to reflect and gather in the presence of all that is good and all that is beautiful in the world. I'm grateful for the animals that teach me their ways of being without thinking, but just knowing who they are and who they are meant to serve. They are here to serve the trumpet of dawn that beats in their hearts with arms open wide and walking into the dawn of a pulse of a new era into which we walk hands wide open and without worry. For we know that it isn't what we can't, but for what we can. We are the triumph of the day. We hold the deepest voices of our inner growl. We know that we are not alone and that together we can overcome. We have been given free agency to be who we are, to manifest all that is in our hearts, to bravely, vicariously, and courageously enter into the unknown with all that is to come. We know that there are so many beautiful things that are waiting down below, and to understand that there is only one thing and one thing only that we can do behind our masks is to know who we really are. Who are we? We are the voices of Psalms and children of the unwrongs. We are the optimists who know that it is not the pessimists who shall hold us back. We have got the biggest fuck you of all time to say, I can and I will until the end of time. What is even more important is that we reflect and gather in our strength and our undoing of stories and worries, that we can ultimately shake off the dim of the night and head into the light, for the Savior is within reach of our final calling. Be who you know you can be. See who you know is in the mirror. Reflect back on what is carrying you forward, for in the end of time, there is no lie greater than the one that we are alone. We are never alone. Together, we walk with hands open into a portal, into the next succession of awe, magic, mystery, and rapture. Into the skies above our heads lies dreams that await to rise. Only for magic can we believe in that tomorrow is here and now, together in our hearts of collectivity, our memories together of open love, unwavering faith, and story.
Unbelievable. That was just one stream of consciousness writing?
Sometimes it happens. It doesn't always happen.
That's incredible. That I'm telling you, like that has to be framed or put somewhere for many to see it. Really, that was like a combination of like a prayer slash like gratitude journal slash like departing before death type. I mean, that was unbelievable. Like there was just there's so much beauty in that. Seriously. Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
that was great.
I just feel like the sentiment is, let's do this together.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah.
Because you were
I
with
hope
other people when you wrote it, right?
I wasn't with other people before I wrote it. I was just, it was actually right before I was going to do an event, which was called Reflect and Gather. And it was basically just reflect and gather on 2020 and close it out. And it just really struck me to just kind of put into perspective, like this was a challenging year, and but at the same time, I think it was something in many ways a blessing for us all to be connected again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I uh, I couldn't have asked for a better way to end a discussion. I always leave room for people to talk, but the fact that you shared that was excellent, and I'll make sure we put the stuff in the show notes, footnotes, description, etc., for people to follow you. Um, but yeah, cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. And I am
Yeah,
wishing so much luck and success to Dream Big. And yeah, you just know that I'll be watching and supporting and cheering you guys on. Yeah.
thank you so much.